Welcome back to the channel and a new video on our Ford Transit Connect build. Today we're going to be making some lids for our bench seating, and we're also going to be fitting up a cab shelf with storage. This one's a good one. Grab yourself a brew, let's get into it. Next up, the lids for our bench seating here. So what I need to do is take the length from this edge to the end, add probably 12mm on top, 15mm we'll call it, just for our width of our blades when we cut, and we should be able to get three lids in there, and that'll be plentiful for you to be able to sit on and what have you for your bench. We can also make this cut here for this one, and we should also have enough to do our kitchen worktop. So this is going to all be in 12mm birch, super strong, hard wearing gear. We're not using plywood or anything like that. This is birch ply. It's not cheap, but plenty strong enough for what we need. Okay, all our lids are made, smoothed off. What we've got as well is a little divider between this and this, which will be absolutely fine. Now we can make the timbers that live underneath that will stop this all moving around and coming out. We can get on with those now, but you've got to say, it looks pretty darn good. I've cut the timbers, and I've also popped them in place, obviously on the inside of our line, because that's the inside of our finished bench. So a top tip for you, just to stick them down with some double-sided tape for now. That way you can get them where you need them to test it, rather than fully securing your fit with screws, super glue or whatever. It's just a great way to test. And have a little feel. You don't want to move it around too much, but for me that's good. I'm trying to pull that this way and it's not happening, and we've got a mil or so that way. So for me, the line up on that one is perfect, and obviously we can do the rest, double check them, get these boards oiled up, etc., and then secure them down finally. So just a little tip there for your lids. To mark these timbers that need to go underneath to stop these moving around, all I have to do is put my hand in with a pencil and draw a line up in here And what that should do, as you can see, is give me some lines. So now I know that I need to add a piece of timber that finishes probably 1 millimetre off this. And of course we can get our lengths just by measuring this part. Once they're on, that lid's not going to move about and fall out. So now I can take a pilot bit. I want to first make sure that my pilot bit doesn't sink past both pieces of wood. I can then pilot my holes. And I know now when I remove it, I should have marks underneath. There we go. I had to double check that, but yeah. So I know exactly where I'm going to be screwing through when I put this back on. I can clean this up now, get it all oiled, and repeat the process for the rest of the lids. Okay, so that's our lids done. Just need oiling. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, whether to go with the matching colour for our dark wood or to give the contrast and just give them a natural Danish oil. Let me know down below what you think. They're in place, they're not moving, but they work. Rightio, overhead cab shelf. So, obviously our wall is finishing around here and I need to scribe a shelf in. Now, I've got a few nooks and crannies to deal with to take the shelf around all this profile. Now, much like when we made the cav shelf, I can't do this in just one hit, putting in a piece of cardboard or whatever and just cutting it out. I'm going to make it in 2 parts. I'm going to create a template that works down this side of the van. And of course, I'll be able to flip it upside down and put it over here. And I'm going to make a template that works across the front. This whole space in the middle here, not worried about that, because we know that's just a flat board. It's getting all these shapes and nooks and crannies and dents and crivets and all the rest of it, getting them all sorted. So what I'll do first is make a template to live down here out of cardboard, and then we can work our way across to this one. And then I can double this template on here, put it onto that side, and then work out a way to marry them together. So we've got a piece of cardboard. I think I want the shelf to finish so our sun visors can finish pretty level. So first job, it's going to be quite hard for you to see, but I want to follow some lines that we've got going on here. And I'm just marking okie dokie. This might be quite hard to follow. I'm not very good at explaining myself when it comes to sort of templating profiling, but hopefully you'll get the gist. So what I've got the length of the piece of cardboard. So this was at the front of the van. When we come down, we have an indent. Basically, I'll draw the shape. Basically, it goes like this. So this is where the grab handle lives, in this part. Then there was a little bulgy bit, like so. And then it went out from the B post. And then around here is where it's going to finish. We're not too worried about the length part. You know, it can be this long because we know we're going to chop off what we don't need. But this is essentially kind of the shape. It is actually going to end up bending in a bit, but it drops into the grab handle part, comes out of the grab handle part. There's a little dip, and then it runs off to the B post. So if we go back in here, we got a dip into our grab handle. We've got coming out of the grab handle, then here is the little dip, and then it runs off around the B post, and it will finish, or it should finish pretty much here. So what I can do now is start chopping away at the cardboard to get all these lines in filled. When I go straight here, there's a dent in here, so I need to consider that also. As I say, I hope it makes sense. It is a I want to go that way. It's a little confusing, but when you template, or when I template, I always work one profile at a time. I don't try and template the back end and the front end, getting it all cut at the same time. What I will do is start working on one side and then work out what I need to do at the front end, and if I need to move things backwards and forwards. Right then, we're going to have a shaky hand time with the camera and what have you, but we'll offer this up and see what we've got. What we can and can't see here really, but if we can see, we've already started to follow these contours lovely. I've come a bit short here, so I need to take this back part out a bit, and that will allow this to get further in. And we'll do that first actually, before I muck around with anything else. You can see that little bump there. This is the little bump part that we were talking about. That's closed up. And we've got some closing up to do down the front end. We'll continue fettling away. I've got plenty of meat on this bit of cardboard. But yes, first job, take a bit more of this out. So we kind of want to be around here somewhere, and this certainly needs, this kind of needs something like that taken out of it to allow that back end to go in further. We'll continue. Right, we're much closer now. This is obviously a time-consuming job, but as you can see, I hope you can see, we are pretty damn close now. There's maybe just a couple of bits I want to tinker. I think here I need to just take out a little bit more, because we are hitting. Leo. So this is kind of where we're looking. So we're in quite nice up here already. This part needs to go backwards. I need to take more out of this point. It's hard to do this with one hand. Yeah, so here you can see that I'm not quite against the wall. So what I need to do is take some material out of this indent here to allow that to go further backwards. Then down here, again, I need to take material from this part to allow this to go further in too. But we aren't a million miles away. So let me just grab a Sharpie this time. So I want to take a bit out of that, and certainly something out of that, but run it to nothing. I don't want to take it all out, I just want to take a small part. I apologise for this video, but it's hard enough to do it with both hands, let alone one and a camera. So on this part, I don't want to take any more material out of this end, so that cut needs to just run to nothing. And then here I'm going to start with something like that, and hopefully that will allow this part of the wall, this part of it, to get closer to the wall. The same here, and I might put a little curl on that. Okay, I think that'll do for a cut in the most part. Once we've carpeted it, it will close up all those shadows and bits perfectly. So for me at the moment, this part of the template is done. As you can see, it's all a bit weirdy, bendy, curly, considering it was just a straight line of card. I hope that's come across okay. When you're templating, you want to try and follow your contours of what you've got going on. Fingers crossed, that'll all work out lovely, and we can now concentrate on making this next shape, which is going to run across here. This shouldn't be too bad. We're going to have some angles that go out, and then we're going to have an in and out, an in and out, and out and an in and in and out, and all the rest of it. Once I've done the templates, I'll worry about fixing it up. Now, looking at fixing it up, I'm hoping behind there we've got some sort of riv nut holes or something along those that you would be able to screw in your grab handles. If they still exist behind there, then we can certainly use that to pick up our timbers and support it. You know, if you pull yourself up and down on these, I'm sure it's going to take 20 kilos of weight max or whatever you're going to chuck up in the roof of your cab shelf. So yeah, we'll work it all out. I'm kind of hoping I don't have to cut slots and fit brackets and glue them to the outside roof of the van. There are companies like Evo Design on their crafters particularly that you'll have a bracket that's glued to the roof of the van at the front there, the slope, and then the back of the shelf is picked up on there. We'll see what we can do and see how strong this is for a fitting. Okie dokie. Now we're going to scribe in some card, or in this case cardboard, and try and pick up our front edge. So first of all, I want to get a length. This is only rough. I want to get a maximum length I can. So we're going to cut it to 118 at the front there, and then we can start putting in our notches to get the board further back. Okay, I apologise, this might be hard to see again, but I've cut this now to a length of about 118 centimetres. So that fits in there in the most part. I do feel I need to round some edges. Take you in with me and show you what we got here. So as we can see on this end, we're touching this, which isn't a big problem. And on this end the same, we're touching. So for me that's pretty good. What I can concentrate on now is getting this this cut out here for where this light is. So it's going to come in something like so. And then once I've taken the corners out of here, that should allow me to slide this backwards. Right, what I'm first going to do is take out these notches where it's hitting our sun visor. Get those chopped out. Then we'll put it back in and test it again. Okay, we're getting somewhat nearer. We've managed to get further back now, and we are now fouling on here. So the next plan is definitely to get this fitting cut out. Okay, so this is where our cab light picks up. I'm not trying to get it exact, you know, you can see I've marked it bigger and then I've gone smaller. I just want to take out a bit at a time because it's easier to take more out than put it back in. So we'll get this cut out and we'll test again. Okay, definitely getting closer now. I've got a bigger gap here than here. I do want to take this out just a little bit more. Okay, we are quite close. Obviously from before we had our side all scribed in, and that's looking pretty damn good. And our front now is pretty much there. So what I've got to think about, I think, is getting these stuck together and getting it out and then attempting to cut something. But I don't think it's a million miles away. So this is me playing around. This isn't, I can't really call this a tutorial because I don't even know if this is going to work yet. But the principle's there. If I get these stuck down to each other, remove it, put it on a board and cut it out, it shouldn't be a million miles away. We just need to make sure that everything fits where it touches. So this, of course, is the kind of shape we're looking for. What I'm going to do is spray glue here, here, rather than trying to use sellotape. What I'll do is I'll put this first piece in place and then flip them, stick them on top, and then hopefully they will stay together. When we take it out, we'll have an idea of what we got. So as I previously said, not too worried about the middle. We know the middle's just a flat piece of board. But we've got our lines in now. And I don't think we're a million miles away. What I am going to do is I am going to transfer this to a piece of 3.5 or 5mm ply first. Okay, so I've got a bit of scrap 5mm here. I've drawn in my template. Now the template does finish wider, but I can get away with that because of the face of our overcab locker, overcab shelf. The shelf's actually going to finish a bit short of this, but it's fine. So we've got our cutouts. Instead of these being square, I shall round them and try and follow these lines, and hopefully when I take away the top edge we should have something that resembles a cab shelf. Okay, and so we're on 5mm board, which doesn't help because we've got a lot of flex. I may add a batten in here just to shore up this, just so we can get a proper look in at what is going on. But if we come under here, the front can go up and that looks okay. We look decent in here. All this is looking good. And also looking great here. Right then, happy with the shelf. I need to have a look and see what we can do for fixing it up here. I'm hoping behind here we've got a threaded rib nut or something, because this is where your grab handle will pick up. Let's pop these out, have a look. I think we're all right. Hard to see, but in there I believe that is threaded. So what I should be able to do is make some L brackets to pick up the bottom of the shelf. I can get 2 in there, and like I said previously, you hang off those to get in and out your vehicle. So I think this is an M5. I don't think it's a 6, but it goes in, so we can absolutely hang a bracket off there or 2. So that cab shelf is working out really nice for us. What we're going to do now is transfer this 5mm onto some 12mm. Copy it out, cut it out, and fingers crossed it will go in as well as the other with a bit more rigidity. Of course, if we need to fine fettle, we will, but the first fit from the 5mm was very nice indeed. Let's get cutting. There she is in a 12mm glory. I cannot stand this cheap Chinese ply. That Russian Eastern European ply was so much better. This cuts awfully, but we are there. Let's get her in. So we've more than doubled the thickness of the ply from 5mm to 12. So I would not be upset if this did not go in easy. Not without its issues. An issue I have is getting the 12mm past this easy. So we are a long way off. Plenty of fettling to do, I think. Okay, everything is on a kind of angle. We're very angled at the front, of course, but if you can see, everything is pointing inwards. So I'm going to set up the router, and I'm going to put a bevel on everything. That'll give me an angle to play with. It's a 45-degree angle. That might allow me to get things in a bit closer. I do feel though, particularly on the front, I'm going to need something a lot steeper. But let's get this set up, and we can router all around our outside edge. Right, so far I've made a cardboard template, I've made a 5mm template, I've tried it with 12, and now I've dropped it to 9mm. So I am using some materials here to make this. The fit on 9mm is a lot better, and it does go past here a lot nicer. I still can't get the front end up. And I think what I need to do is take off this part, and I think I need to take from the back edge here down to nothing. So take this line out, and that should allow me to get the board up higher. Because as we can, I don't know if you can tell, but the board is going down at the front. I can't get it any higher at the back. This is the kind of height I want it. So to get the front up, I need to start taking material out of the front. And as we can see with the light fitting as well, you know, I can get my fingers up there. I need to get this higher. And where it's touching is here. So I take this off, and then I run this edge down to nothing, and then that should allow me to get the board up a bit higher. I may also need to start taking more of this out because we are tight here and here. But first job, let's take this front end out. Hopefully it'll work. So as explained, this front edge is coming off, and also this down to nothing. This should hopefully give me a bit more clearance to get it up. Okay, we're getting somewhere. So I can now push this up even higher. What's preventing us is this area here. I need to take more out of this to allow the sides to go up more. But we're certainly getting there because that gap's closing. Good news, I think I've done it. So we are up high now onto our light fitting, which is great. We are up high here enough. We have space. I chopped this out, probably didn't really need to, but I can carve it over that and leave that. That will be fine. It's up there underneath the sun visor, no issues. We're in here lovely. So what I've done is, as you saw in the previous clip, I took the leg off, which allowed us to get a little bit higher. I took this leading edge off down to nothing. That allowed us to get higher. On each side, I also took out a few mil here, and that's allowed us to get a bit higher. And as you can see now, we're up high in the cab, and we have a roof in 9mm. We have a roof. We don't have a roof. We have a cab shelf in 9mm. But we're not done there, because I need to take off this edge now so we can add our fascia to it. Really, I could actually just fit this in place and leave it, but I do really need to. If you're going to do this, you absolutely need to be able to pick up the front end and have a support. So we'll have that in there with an access, and it will look great and fine and everything else. But that is a huge win, and a lot of time and a lot of material spent. But that's got to be worth a sub, isn't it? Cab shelf, well on the way. So the outside edge of the tape is where the back of the board lives. Now it's floating. I'm not overly happy with it. But what we'll do is we'll get the shelf up and in, and then see what snags touches, and I might have to find another way. So I've added this timber underneath the strut here to be able to try and stop the bowing so much. It's kind of worked in a fashion, particularly that end. You know, we've got our tape which runs across here, and I can say that if I marked it, that would be that end okay. This one I'm way short, but for all intents and purposes this is a symmetrical board, you know, one side should be the same as the other. So really, if I check my distances, I might be able to get away with marking something up. The worry is I just come up short, then that becomes a problem. Do I need another way? Done it. We are in and we are tight. What I shall do is take out a section of this at the bottom, because it is low, you know, we've got probably 3 or 4 inches there. I can cut out, leave a nice edge, and it'll look smart. But I think we are there. Nice big hole to be able to put stuff in. Get the shelf carpeted. Get this all nicely finished and oiled, and that'll be a cab shelf done. Monumental amount of work figuring it out. It's been a headache, but it's all part of the journey. Okay, so I've dropped the shelf, but before I dropped it, I drew a line on the bottom of the shelf from the underside. This is where the shelf's going to live, and this is the part that I can remove. So I'm going to drop it 10mm, take out this part. I've also marked here the absolute furthest I can go to the edges, and the same on that end. So we can put our shape in and remove that bit. So let's drop the shelf and face and do that. Okay, let's look at cutting the hole. So we know we're 10mm above the bottom of the shelf, and we know we've got a 9mm shelf. So we're probably around here. What I'll do is add another 10mm, and that gives us a lip inside the shelf. So if things decide to try and fall out, which they never do, at least there's a buffer there. At the top, I need to pick up the top with a timber to be able to support our shelf at the top edge here. So what we'll have is about a 17cm hole that's in height, and the width can be, I mean, the width could be probably here to here. So that makes quite a large hole to be able to get stuff into. I could leave it with nothing. I could just cut it straight there like that. But I think it looks a lot smarter, even if it's got the smallest of lips. I could even cut this timber down half size. Maybe even use a piece of birch, which is probably strong enough at 15mm. I don't know. I may even trim this down. I may even get the table saw out and halve that, and that should be plentiful. Okay, that's the hole marked out. I've decided to go 15mm from the top. That should be giving you plenty of strength to be able to get brackets or what have you up there. I don't know yet, a timber. So we're going to come down, we'll go round, run across the bottom, round and up and round again. So it's going to be quite a large hole, but you don't want a small hole. You don't want a hole this big, you know. You don't want a hole that's a foot wide. It's pointless. You want a nice big hole that you can get to all areas of your cab shelf, you know. So yeah, we can get that whipped out now. So that's our hole cut. What I can do now is finish it up, get rid of all these edges, make it nice and smooth to the touch. So I've got 4 brackets screwed into the wall. That's going to pick up the top side of our shelf. So we'll get that in now. And then we'll be able to mark some holes and hopefully get the shelf up. So with the board up, we can see our brackets, and we can take a pen, dab in some holes, set some drill holes, and then be able to bolt it up. And then this can hang there forever and a day. What you absolutely want to make sure though is that everything is in position before you even think about drilling a hole, because if your board is off kilter a bit or what have you, then you're just making unnecessary holes. But that is how I am going to fix this up. So we've got our brackets in, and we've got 4 bolts holding it at the moment. So I should just be able to drop these now, and it stays there. There we go. No hands. Okay, so with the front on, we aren't too bad. We've got a bit of a bow in the board at the moment, and I'm not happy with the front end. There's a drop. I might need to find a way to pick up the front end. but she ain't so shabby. So call me a madman or a genius or anything in between, but I think I can pick the front end up by adding a bracket behind the screw that holds our sun visor, and that's bent into shape to run across our lid. So I need to make another one of them and then work out how I'm going to make it all work together. But I think that is going to be the solution. I can carpet this as well before I fit it, so it is going to take away some shadow and make it actually look a bit nicer. So that's our front brackets located, and inside we can see I can now mark to put a fitting in there in some fashion anyway, and that'll pick up the front of that shelf just lovely. Obviously I've set the shelf with a strut or with an acro here just to get it to the height I want, and then worked everything around that. That's a pretty nifty solution, I think. B&Q brackets, can't beat them. Okay, off camera, obviously, as you can see, I've carpet lined the shelf in grey. I've also finished up the face and painted the brackets that pick up the front sun visor. I've painted them grey. I've also carpeted underneath and left the spaces for where I can pick up those brackets, and across the front here has been left because on the back of our face we've got a timber across the top here that we can screw up into the ceiling, and we have this here that we can screw down or screw up into our base from this end. So that's all the parts. Fingers crossed it all fits. Oh dear, here we go. Step one done. Cab shelf bolted up nice and tight. Not too shabby. Well, it's done and in. Let's have a look. Check that out for decent usable storage. And a lovely cab shelf. Exactly what we needed. Finished exactly how I wanted it in the end, in keeping with what's going on with the build. Absolutely chuffed to bits. That's got to be worth a like button hit, isn't it? Let me know down below. Lots of solution finding, figuring out, measuring, cutting, templating. But it's in. Proper chuffed. Ooh, so that's it for this episode. Got our cab shelf done. got some lids on our bench seating. I'm super chuffed with how this has come out. It did take its toll on time though, and I wanted to get much more done than I did. So on the next episode we'll probably have the worktop finished, and we'll also possibly have some electrics going on, some sort of final fitting of electrical components and stuff. There will be a dedicated video, as I said before, on electrics, because so many get it wrong, and I'll show you how to do it right. So as always, thanks so much for watching. Do hit the thumbs up. This has got to be worth a thumbs up. Subscribe down below and hit the bell notification, that way you'll know when I next upload. And also let me know down below what you think of this and how the build is coming along in general. So we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.